What's up, y'all? Ron Medlin here, and my goal with this video is to just give you everything, give you the most comprehensive and the most up-to-date video tutorial on Go High Level communities as of filming this video June 13th, 2025. So I'm going to be walking you step by step through how to get your community set up. I'm also going to give you some resources and some AI tools that's going to help you to do it super fast. And we're going to be using the exact same frameworks that I used in my own communities to help me generate over $220,000 this year. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to use some of the other tools like Social Planner and workflow automations to make running your community much more efficient and easier. So here's exactly what we're going to cover in this video. First of all, we're going to talk about how to customize your client portal and how the client portal relates to your community. I'm going to walk you through all the community features as of filming this video and how to set up your community from A to Z. Then we'll talk about how to use the Social Planner to schedule your community posts, which will save you tons of time. And finally, we're going to talk about all of the current community workflow automations that are available inside of Go High Level communities as of filming this video. So one of the biggest components to setting up your high level community is understanding what the client portal is and how to configure it so you can customize it to make it look and feel like you want it to, okay? So let's read what High Level says about the client portal. So what is the client portal? Your clients have the ability to log in at any time to the client portal for assessing courses, communities, and overseeing their affiliate payouts. So basically, the client portal is a hub where your clients can access all the products that you've given them access to. So let me show you what a client portal looks like, okay? So this is an example of a client portal. Now, all of this is customizable, and we're going to show you how to do that in a little bit later in this video. But you can customize the menu items on the left-hand side here. You can customize what they see here, and you can also customize what page that they your clients land on when they first log into your client portal. So that is what the client portal looks like. Now, to find your client portal, you're going to scroll down on the left-hand bar here in your sub account. You're going to go to memberships, and then you're going to see this little tab that says client portal. Also, within the client portal drop down, we've got the dashboard, which you're looking at right now. And then we have the settings, which we're going to go through each of these individual settings here shortly. And then we have the branded mobile app. Now, let me talk about the branded mobile app just really quickly. So a branded mobile app is basically, you can, I think it's $79 a month. You can create your own custom app for your brand, for your business. And it doesn't have any high-level branding or any GoCollab branding. It's your mobile app, okay? So it's going to live in the Apple Store and the Android Store, and it's going to have your icon, and it's going to be branded fully to you. Now, my suggestion is, unless you think you really need a branded mobile app, just forget this, because it's a big, long process, and I don't really see that much value in it unless you're this big corporation that really needs a branded app, okay? So I would avoid that and just use the GoCollab app. I think there's a lot of benefit to the discoverability being on the GoCollab.com marketplace. So unless you really need it, then just avoid the branded mobile app. All right, so let's go back to the dashboard here and let's talk about what we're going to see here, and then we'll move on to settings. All right, so here on the dashboard, what you're going to see is you're going to see the number of contacts that you've invited to the actual client portal. You can see all the active users on the client portal that have access to it. You're going to see the client portal URL. Okay, so we can actually customize this. We'll show you that in a second. And then at the bottom here, you're going to see all the different actions, and these are essentially going to help you invite people to your client portal. Now let's actually go to the settings. All right, so let's first start with an overview of the different setting options here, and then we'll dig into each one of these individually. All right, so the first one here is the domain setup. This is where we're going to customize the actual link in the domain for the client portal. App permissions, this is how we're going to customize what shows up in the actual client portal, like we talked about earlier. Language settings, obviously this is where we're going to set the language for the actual client portal. And then branding, this is where we can kind of customize the look and feel of the actual portal. And then email settings, which this is where we can set the notifications that we want to send everybody and the admins themselves. So let's actually show you first the domain setup. Now, if you want to customize the domain that your communities live on and make it a pretty little domain that is branded to your business, what you need to do is you need to set up the custom domain for your client portal. So that's how you're going to do that. So to do that, we have two different options. We can set up the subdomain that lives on the default domain that High Level gives you, or we can actually use a custom domain that we set up in our hosting account. All right. So if we wanted to set up the subdomain on the default platform that they give you, then what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're just going to edit this subdomain field for the default domain. So I'm just going to call this Ron Client portal, and then I'm going to click update domain. And now once I've done that, if I head back over to my dashboard, you can see that we have the new custom domain that is still living on the default domain that HighLevel gives you. So if I click on this, that's going to take me to the login page for the client portal. Now, once I log in, that's where you're going to see all the client portal information that we showed you earlier. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. The better way to do it is probably to just use a actual custom domain. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're actually going to set up a custom domain. So I'm going to do Ron client dot, and then I'm going to put that on our domain. So this is a subdomain that lives on our main domain. So I'm going to call this GoHighTicketNow.com, and then I'm going to click add domain. And then depending on where your domain is actually hosted, sometimes it will just do this automatically. Mine is hosted on Squarespace, so I actually have to do this manually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add record manually, and then I'm going to copy this information. I'm going to add it to the DNS records inside of my hosting account. So I'm going to go to Squarespace. I'm going to find wherever the DNS settings are, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a new record. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. I'm going to click on add record. And then we're going to grab the host name, which is this first part here. I'm going to just copy that, go to Squarespace, and I'm going to paste that in. Now the type of record this is a CNAME, and it should tell you right here. So we're going to grab the CNAME, and then we're going to, sometimes this says value for us in Squarespace, it says alias data. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the required value here, and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste that into the alias data. Again, it might say something different on your hosting platform. And I'm going to set this as low as possible, this TTL, and I'm going to click save. And then I'm going to go back to the domain settings. I'm going to verify the records. All right, so we just verified our custom domain here. If we go back to the client portal, it might take a little bit of time to update, but no. Our client portal is now on our actual custom domain. So if I click on this, again, it should take us to the login page. Okay, it's not quite ready yet, but give it a few minutes and it should populate at some point. So I'm going to just refresh this. All right, so now it's finally populated. We've got our custom domain set up, and now when we log into our community, it's going to sit on ronclient.groupfuel.io. Okay, so that's how you're going to do custom domain setup. Now let's actually go to the settings and let's go to app permissions. All right, so app permissions. So this is where we're going to customize what goes into our client portal. Okay, so what our clients see when they log into the client portal. All right, so the options up here at the top are going to be the apps that show up in the client portal. So you can check these on or off, so we can decide whether we want the communities to show up, which obviously we do, courses if we want those to show up in the client portal or just in the community. Affiliates, if you have affiliates, billings and subscription, contracts, estimates, and shared files. So I would probably, if I was just doing the community, then what I would do is I would come in here and do shared files, uncheck that, uncheck estimates, uncheck contracts. I would probably keep billing and subscriptions in there. If you wanted to have affiliates for your community, I would definitely keep that on. And I would probably just untoggle the courses, because we can actually put the courses inside the community, so we don't necessarily need courses in the client portal. Okay, and then here at the bottom we can actually select the default landing page. When somebody logs into your client portal, this will be the first page that they actually land on. Okay, so if we are doing communities, obviously we would probably want to select communities, and you're only going to be able to select the options that you have checked up here at the top. So again, if we are running a community and that's our main focal point for our clients, then I would just select communities as our main landing page, and then we're going to save the settings. And then let me go to our community client portal, and I'm going to log out, and then I'll log back in, and you'll hopefully see that the new setup is the way we just customized it. Let me pause the video, give it a little bit of time, and then I'll come back and log in. All right, so let's log in, and then you'll see that we land on the community. This is what we selected for our landing page here. And then if we go to the actual client portal, you can see that the only things that show up is our communities, okay, our affiliates, and managed subscriptions. So that's what we have checked here, these boxes that we have checked here. So that is how you're going to customize what the client sees when they log into their client portal, and also the landing page that they land on. So let's go back to settings, and let's now go into language settings. This is pretty straightforward. You're just going to select the language that you want the client portal to be in, and then once you've got the language selected, you're just going to click Save Settings. Pretty simple there. Now let's actually go to branding. All right, so before we start messing around with these branding details, let's actually look at what everything associated with the client portal looks like before we start tweaking it, okay? So currently this is the client portal, okay? So you can see we've got this little logo here. We've got the welcome to. It's pretty bland. There's nothing really going on here. And then this is the actual login page. So this is the login page. We've got the blue over here. We've got the blue buttons. So pretty basic. Now let's actually start tweaking some of this stuff and see what happens. So let's go back to the settings here. Let's say Ron Client Portal. And then I'll just do the same for the description here. Copy that, paste it in. I'll change this to just red, and then I'll change this to green. I think I've got a favicon in here somewhere, so let's actually grab that. I'll use this, try that. Okay, so that worked. We've got the portal image, and I know for a fact that this is going to be an image that shows up over here. And then the logo, let's actually see if we can find a different logo just so we can kind of play around with where this shows up. So I'm going to click open, and now we've got our logo in there. And then our support email, let's actually just put a fake one in here. So ron@test.com, and then at Ron's community. And then we have some advanced settings if you wanted to, if you had like custom JavaScript skills or custom CSS. And then we can also add tracking codes here. So I'm not going to do anything with that right now. I'm just going to click Save Settings. And then we'll give it a second to kind of load up. And then we'll take a look at what those changes did. All right, so the changes have been updated. You can see that Ron's client portal is now the title in here. And then there's no description in the actual client portal itself. The logo is going to show up in the client portal right here. And then we've got the favicon that shows up in the browser here as the little favicon on the browser tab. If we go to the login page, you can see that we have the red button, and then we have the red mixed with the green as the portal color over here. So we'll take a look at that in just a second. We've got the description of the client portal here. We've got the copyright over here, and then we have the support email. So let's go back to the branding settings, and you can see here that the core color, the color 1, is going to be mainly going to show up on your login screen over here, and the button. Okay, so that's that color number 1, and then color number 2 is going to be a blend with the secondary with the color 1 on the right hand side. Okay, so that is basically all the branding settings. Now the branding for the client portal does not have anything to do with the client or with the community outside of what the client portal looks like. Okay, so inside of your community you can actually edit the settings for your branding inside the community. All right, so that is the branding for the client portal itself. Now let's actually review the email settings. All right, so the email settings is where you're going to come in and enable or disable the email notifications for your group members and customize the emails that they receive. So this is essentially where we're going to manage all the notifications that you send to your users and to yourself as an admin. All right, so we have 4 different tabs here. We have the client portal, we have communities, and we have certificates and courses. So each one of these tabs is going to be where you're going to click on and control the notifications that apply to that particular feature. All right, so the first tab here, we have the client portal, and underneath each one of these tabs, you're going to see a category of the notifications that you can send. You're going to see a description of that category, and then you're going to see all of the different notifications that you can either click on or off by just simply clicking that checkbox. On the right hand side, you're going to see the default template for that particular notification. And you've got the default template. If you wanted to create a new one, you could click on new template, and you could come here and edit that template to change the look and the feel of the email that the client's going to receive. Once you've edited that, you can click save, and now you have a brand new template that you would send to your users. Also, if we click the little eyeball, we can actually get a preview of the email that they're going to be sent. And so that is the client portal. All right, so now let's set up your first community. Now to help with this, I've actually created a full setup guide that's going to help you to think about everything that you need to put inside of your community. It's literally going to take you step by step through every single aspect, from the basic setup piece to the channels, to the membership questions, to the pin posts that we recommend, also the classroom area and what you need to put in there, your About Us page copy, and also the emails and the SMS text that you want to send to your community members when they first join. Now, once you've actually filled in the details, which I highly recommend filling this out before you get started setting up your community, it's just going to make it easier to actually just copy and paste all the things that you've created and put them inside your community. We actually have a technical setup checklist at the end of this document that's going to help you walk you through step by step of the technical aspect. And we've actually developed some AI tools that's going to help you to create all the content that you need to fill out this document and to set up your community. So I'm going to drop the link in the description to access our free community where you can get this free setup guide and you can access the AI tools. All right, so I'll drop that in the description. Now let's actually get started and let's create your community. So I'm going to click on create group here, and that's going to pop up the basic details of your community. The first thing that we want to do is we want to name the community. All right, so I'm going to name mine Community Builders, so that's what we do. Now you'll notice as you type your name into the group name, it's going to start to create your community slug. So this is going to be the slug that lives at the end of your community URL, and that's the client portal URL that we created earlier. Let me actually grab my description, which I created earlier inside of my setup document. I'm just going to grab this, copy that, and I'm going to go back to my community. I'm going to paste that in. Now you don't want to slack on this description, because if you are going to show up in GoCollab search and people are kind of searching through communities, you really want to capture their attention with this hook and make it really solid. So for us, we help people launch your community and get your first 100 members in 10 days. And that's a pretty solid hook. So if people are actually looking to launch communities, they might see that and be interested and join our community. Now this is the discovery feature, which you can toggle on or off, and this is going to basically help you to show up in the GoCollab.com for discovery, and you can potentially bring a lot of free traffic to your community if people can find you in discovery. All right, to be discoverable inside of GoCollab.com, you must first have 10 members. That's pretty easy to do, not a big deal, but I would definitely toggle that on. That's my recommendation, so I've got that toggled on. Now we're going to add the favicon. The favicon, again, is just the little icon that lives up in the browser in the top left. And then, so I'm going to grab this. This needs to be a 1-to-1 ratio, so basically a square. So I'm going to find my favicon here, this one here. I'm going to upload that. And then we've got the cover image, which needs to be a 16:9 ratio, so like a rectangle. So I'm going to grab this, and I believe I've got one to fit here. So I'm going to use that. Let's see, so that worked. And then we're going to upload our logo, which is basically, you can have the same as your favicon if you want, or you can make it different. It needs to be a 1-to-1 ratio also. So I'm going to grab mine, click on that, and then I'll scroll down and find our logo, which is here. And then I'm going to click open, and then we'll create our group. All right, so once you've set up your community, this is what your bare bones community is going to look like. Let me give you a little tour so you kind of understand the lay of the land here, all right? So the first thing that I want to show you is the link in the address bar. So you'll notice the first part of the link is going to be the domain that you set up for the client portal. Then we have communities, groups, and then the slug that you created when you first set up your community. So that's going to be your link. That's kind of how it's structured, just so you understand how that looks. Then at the top left here, we have the home button. If you click on that home button, it's going to take you to the client portal. We'll show you that in a second. If you wanted to see the community homepage, you would want to click on this button here, okay? Now at the top here, we have this little switcher, and if we click on that, you can see all of the communities that this profile that I'm logged into has access to, okay? Also, you'll notice these little pin icons here. If I click on that, you can see that it unpinned this particular community. If I want to prioritize certain communities because I'm more interested in those, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that little pin icon, and it will pin these communities to the top. So if I'm more interested in certain communities, I want to pin those, and then that is going to be the ones that are at the top for the easiest access. Okay, so we can see all of our communities here. We can see the pinned ones at the top. Also on the left hand sidebar, we can see all of our communities here and the pinned ones at the top here. Then we actually have the search bar here. We can search for different keywords to kind of filter out our feed to find relevant content around that keyword. If we click on this little icon here, we can switch between dark and light mode. So if I click on that, I'm in dark mode, and if I switch it again, I'm in light mode, okay? This is a quick access button to your communities or affiliates here. I think this is anything that you have set up in your client portal is going to show up with these in this little section here, and we set up the client portal earlier in this video. The notifications bell here, this is going to show all of the notifications from all of the different communities that you have access to. We can either toggle between all of the notifications, or we can just make it where we're just looking at the unread notifications. If you click on these three horizontal dots here, you can mark all of your notifications as read. Now, when it comes to these notifications, if you go into your profile, you can control what notifications from what communities you actually see. So if you want to kind of remove some of those notifications so it's not so overwhelming, you can do that in your profile. We'll show you that shortly. Here's my profile. If I click on that, I can manage my account or I can log out. Then I can actually come over here and we can see we've got the different communities like we talked about earlier. We've got our channels here. So when you actually create a post inside your community, you need to select a channel that you want that post to be assigned to. And that's basically how you're going to filter your feed. So the home page is going to show you all of the posts inside of your community. If you click on announcements, it's just going to show you the posts that are assigned to that particular channel. And we'll show you how to set up channels here in a second. Then at the top here, we have discussion. This is going to be where all of your posts are. And then we've got the learning tab where your courses are. We'll show you how to set that up. This is where you're going to see all of your members, and you can toggle between active, admins, contributors. We can see all of our requests here, and we can see all the people that we've banned for the community. And you can search for members by name here. Events is where you can actually set up events, so you can post events in your community, and then you can toggle between month or week, and you can also toggle between the calendar view or the list view. Leaderboard is all about gamification. So HighLevel has gamification inside the community, so you can assign points to people that engage inside your community. Or the cool thing about HighLevel communities is you can really assign points to people inside your community for any actions that you want to reward. So this is the leaderboard. This is where you're going to see all the information around gamification. And again, we'll dig into that in a second. The About Us page is essentially the landing page for your community. So you really want to optimize this page because it's the first landing page that people are going to land on when they decide whether to join your community or not. Over here on the right, we have the chat button. This is where you're going to chat with your different members, and you can search for members that you've had conversations with in the past, so you can easily and quickly find those conversations. Now, over here on the right, we've got the cover image. So this is the cover image that you added when you were first setting up the community. We've got the name of the community that we use to set up the community. We can see whether it's a public or a private group. Here's the description. Again, you want to make this a good hook, because when people look at your profile, when they land on your About Us page, they're also going to see this description. So we want to make it compelling. We can see how many members this community has, how many posts have been made inside this community, and how many admins the community has. Now, as you have more and more members inside of your community and more of those members are online, you'll see little profile bubbles here, and that's going to show you your members that are currently online, and you can actually click on those people and go to their profile, start a conversation. That's a great strategy because it's good if you can capture people while they're online to try to bring them back into the community, start a conversation, potentially book a call, or sell some of your offers. Okay, right here we have the settings. We're going to set up these shortly, but these are all the settings for your community. We can invite members. So if we click on this button, we can either grab the link to the community to send to people, or we can invite them via email. And if you want to give that person administrative privileges, then you can toggle this on, and then once you've got that ready, you can send the invite. And then right below that, you can see the leaderboard for the last 30 days. So this is going to show you all of the members that have accumulated the most points over the past 30 days, and then you can click on see all leaderboard to go directly to the leaderboard. So that's the overview tour. Now let's actually kind of go through these different pages and kind of dig in a little bit deeper. All right, so if I click on the home button here, that's going to take us to the client portal. Earlier in the video, we set up the client portal and customized what we wanted to show up in the client portal, and this is kind of the end result. Okay, so we have the logo here, we have the name of the client portal here, and then we set up what we wanted to show up in our client portal to be our communities, our affiliate information, and then managing subscriptions. So that's what's showing up in our sidebar here. If we click on that, that's going to take us to the community that we're currently logged in on. If we click on check affiliate earnings, that's going to take us to our affiliate dashboard. And if I click on manage subscriptions, that's going to take me to the billing and subscriptions inside of my profile, where I can easily cancel my subscriptions or kind of manage my billing from there. So let's head back to the community. So that's the client portal, and that's what that's going to look like once you've customized it the way we did earlier in the video. All right, so let's talk about channels. So by default, we have a home channel, which is all of the posts inside the community, and then we have an announcements channel. So the announcements channel is all the posts that are assigned to the announcements channel. If I click this little add channel button, I can create new channels. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to name the channel. So I'm going to call this one Share Your Wins. And the description doesn't really show up anywhere, so I just like to keep that one blank. And then the channel icon, this is the little icon that's going to show up right by the name of the actual channel. If I click into that, you can either select from an icon, which is just a illustration with no color, or you can use emojis. I like to use emojis for my channels because it just pops a little bit more over on the left-hand sidebar. So this is Share Your Wins. So let's select a trophy for this icon. Then we can actually manage the access to this particular channel. So we can make it private, so only selected members have access to that particular channel. So let's turn that on, see what that looks like. When you make that private, it's going to show this little lock icon right by your icon. So that shows you that that particular channel is locked. We can also make this read only. Again, that means that members cannot post inside of this particular channel. They can only read the content in that channel. So let's turn that on too, and let's create the channel. And so now we have a new channel, and you can see we've got our first channel, which the home and the announcements was default. And then we have Share Your Wins channel, which is now locked. And so we know that that channel is locked. Okay, so you can continue to add different channels. Now, when you go to post inside the community, if you are in a channel, you can only post to that particular channel. If you wanted to be able to select a different channel, you need to go to home, you need to create your post, and then you can select between the different channels that you as the poster have access to. Okay, so that is channels. Now let's actually check out settings. All right, to get to the settings area of your community, you're going to go over here on the right hand side underneath your cover image and your description, and you'll click on the settings button. That's going to pop up the settings window, and we'll go through each one of these different settings individually so you understand what each one of them does. All right, so details is what we set up when we first set up the community. So we gave the community a name, we gave it a slug, and we gave it a description. So you can edit any of these features inside of the details settings. If we scroll down a little bit more, we've got a few more settings that we can manage from this actual tab. So we can either set our community to public or private. Public means that anybody that comes to your community, whether they're a member or not, they're going to be able to see all of the content in your community, and they're going to be able to see all of the members in your community. If you set it to private, however, anybody that comes to your community is going to land on the About Us page, and then they have to join the community to be able to see the content in the community and to see the members inside the community. So I typically set this to private. Now, this setting here is where you're going to manage whether you want this community to be accessible through the community switcher in the top left that we showed you earlier and the left-hand sidebar here. I typically set this to on because I want more people consistently and frequently coming to my community, and if it's in the switcher, they're more likely to do that. This setting here allows, you can either toggle on or off to allow your members to invite other members to your community. And I like to toggle this one on because it's more traffic. It's growing your community through other people sharing your community. So I toggle that one on. So that's details. Now let's move on to subscriptions. So subscriptions is where you're going to manage the pricing of your community. So by default, your community is going to be set to free, but if you wanted to make it a paid community or add a paid option, you would click on the add price button. Now, little caveat here, you need to have your merchant processing set up before you can actually create a subscription for your community. But once you have that set up, you would come in here and you can edit the pricing of your community. So whatever you want to charge, you can change the currency. You can make the subscription type either recurring or one-time fee. I'm going to set this to recurring. You can, if you want to have a trial, you can set the number of trial days here, and then you can choose the billing period that you want to charge. So you can make it monthly, you can make it annually, or you can even charge weekly if you'd like. Then once you have it all set up, you have your payment processor set up, you can toggle this on to test mode, so you can use one of the test cards out there to see that the purchasing, the processing is actually working. And then once you have all that all set up, you can click add price and you will have a paid community. All right. So that's subscriptions. Let's move on to branding. Branding is where you're going to set up your brand elements. So we did all of this when we first set up the community. We set up the favicon. So this is the little image in the browser tab. We set up the cover image, which is the image on the right-hand side over here. And then we set up the logo, which is the image in the switchers here on the top left. Okay, so we did all of that when we first set up the community. We can also click into advanced, and this is where, if you understand code, you can add some custom JavaScript or custom CSS to really customize the look and the feel of the community. And if you're running ads, then you can add your tracking code in here. And that is like the branding elements. And then the themes is where you can actually control like the color scheme of the actual community. Between the default color schemes that HighLevel gives you, and let me just kind of click around in these so you can see what it looks like. All right, so you can kind of toggle between those different ones and see if there's any ones that you like. Or you can actually set up a custom theme based on your brand colors. And you can add a little window gradient if you'd like. I would come around and play with these different elements to see which part of the community theme does it actually edit. Okay, so that is where you're going to change the color scheme for your community. And now we'll move on to membership questions. So membership questions allow us to collect valuable information on our members when they first join our community. We can collect things like their contact information, phone number in particular. We can ask them questions about their biggest challenges or pain points so that when we reach out to them in the chat, we have some information about what they're struggling with. We can capture things like what traffic channels they came from, so we understand which of our traffic channels are most effective. So I highly suggest using this feature. So the first thing we need to do to turn this feature on is we need to add our first question. So I'm going to click on the add question button. The first, and then we can select whether we want this question to be a text box, a single select, or a multiple select. I'm going to make this a text box because the first question I will always want to ask is, what is the best phone number for exclusive updates? Okay, so I want to be able to text our members because that's one of our most effective ways for booking phone calls. So I want to collect this phone number. Now, you do not have to collect an email address because when someone comes to join a community, the first thing they have to do is they have to set up a profile, and entering their email address is part of setting up a profile. So you're already going to get that information. You don't have to ask for it in these questions. All right, so it said that there was an issue, but if I close this, you can see that our first question has been added. And then I can toggle the membership questions on once I've added my first question. And then if I wanted to add, I think I can add up to 3 questions. So let's just make the other one. I'm going to make this a text box as well. What is the biggest challenge around growing your community? And again, that's going to give me some great information to reach out to them in the DMs once I collect that information. Again, it says there was an issue, but that question was populated. So then once we have our questions set and we have the membership questions toggled on, I can save that, and now we can collect that information when somebody comes to join our community. Now let's move on to gamification and rewards. Gamification and rewards. Let's talk about this for a second. So the only thing that you can do in the settings area of gamifications and rewards is actually set your level name. So you can come in here and you can edit the level name. So for instance, in my community, the level 1, which is the lowest level, which is the least prestigious level name, is going to be a ditch digger. And we kind of keep the theme around community builders, so builders. So a ditch digger is like the lowest of the low. And then so I'm going to set that level name, and I can come in here and I can set my additional level names. Level 9 is the most prestigious, so I'm going to call this person a master builder. And then you can come in here and you can set all of the level names. Now, In the settings area, the rewards feature, the rewards setting is useless. So don't even worry about that. I'm going to show you how to set up your rewards for your gamification levels a little bit later when we start to set up the community classroom. Okay, so that is gamification rewards. The only thing you're going to do here is set your level names, and that's it. Okay. Now let's move on to links. Links is where you can add promotional links to the right-hand sidebar here underneath the cover image and description of your community. So let's add a link, and let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to click on add link, and I'm going to say book a call, and then I'm going to use the URL. So I'm going to put my URL in there. So it's going to be bookcall.com. And then we can decide whether we want this to be a private link, meaning that you must be a member of the community for this link to show up in the sidebar, or we can set it to public, which means you do not have to be a member. Anybody that lands on the About Us page will see this link in the sidebar. So I'm just going to keep it at private for now. I'm going to click add the link, and then if I close this panel out, you can see that this link has been added to the sidebar here. So the way I like to use these links is if I am booking calls to convert people to my paid offerings, then I want to have a link to my call booking page. If I have a paid community, I want to have a link where they can upgrade to the paid community. If I have a high ticket offer, then I have an application process, I want to have a link to the application. So that's how I'm using these promotional links to convert members into paying clients. The next setting here is reported content. So members inside your community can actually report spammers in your community. So when they report that content, this is where it's going to show up. So you can moderate that content if you'd like. If you are thinking about moving from Skool to GoHighLevel, you can actually import all of your school members and all of the content that they've posted inside of your community by simply adding your Skool credentials in here, and GoHighLevel will import all that data into your high-level community. The last setting we're going to look at here is discovery, and this is where you're going to turn on or off whether you want your community to show up in the GoCollab.com app marketplace. Okay, so this is where you can actually get some free traffic by people going to GoCollab.com, searching for your category of community, and if you're doing well, then you might show up in discovery and people can join your community. So it's kind of free traffic. So I recommend turning this on. And then it's going to give you a category where you're going to show up, and that's based on your title and description. So if you look here and you see that you're in a category that doesn't make sense, then you probably need to tweak your title and description, and then come back here and refresh this and see if it added you to the right community, okay, or the right category. So that is all of our settings. Let's save all that. Now let's talk about how to set up your learning tab and add courses to your classroom, okay? So if I come in here and I click on add course and I click the select course drop down, you can see all these courses that are available for me. Now, when you're first getting started, these courses, unless you've created a course, are not going to be available in your community. This is actually our snapshot that we give our elite members inside of our paid community. So you're not going to see this. So what you have to do first is create a course inside of GHL, and then you can make it available inside of your community. So let me show you how that works. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go back to my high-level account. Inside of high-level, if you go to memberships and then courses and then products, you can come in here. Let me get rid of this. And this is products is where you're going to create your courses. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to click on create a product. I'm going to start from scratch. And then I'm going to go to build your own. And I'm just going to call this test course. And then I'm going to create the product. So again, a product is a course, and when you set up your product, you can come in here and you can add your categories, you can come in here and add lessons and just build out your course. But once your course is ready, you're still not going to be able to access it inside of your community. So let me go back to the community here and click add course, and you can see the test course is still not available. So what we need to do is we actually need to create an offer as well. So once we have our course set up, we can come in here and we can click on offer, and then we can create a new offer. And we can call that test course. And then I only have the option for a free course right now because I don't have my payment processor set up in this account. So I'm just going to go ahead and create the offer. And then I'm going to set that offer from draft to published. And then I'm going to save it. And now we should be able to access this course inside of our community. So I'm going to go back to the community. I'm going to click add course. And then if I click the select course drop down, I should be able to see, let me refresh my screen here. I should be able to see our test course pop in here in just a second. Let's make sure. Let me click add course and then scroll down. We have our test course in here. And now when we're adding the course to the classroom, we can decide who we want this course to be visible to. Do we want to make this course visible to all members? So all members will have access to this course if we make this selection. Do we want to make it a level unlock? So this is attached to gamification, so you can actually select the gamification level that you want this course to unlock at. So let's just say we only wanted to give this course to people who had reached level 3. Okay, so that's how you could do that, and you click add course. If you wanted to make this a paid course, you could come in here and you could select the subscription type. So I'm going to do one-time payment. You can select the price that you want to sell this course at. And again, you need to have your payment processor set up to be able to do this, but then we could add the course if we're going to do that. Time unlock, so this is where you can unlock the course after a certain amount of time, certain amount of days. So let's just say that you were doing a 7-day trial. I wanted to make this course accessible only after the trial was over. So I would set that to 8 days, and then I would click add course, and that's how you would do that. And then the last option here is a private channel. So remember when we set our channels up earlier, you have the option to make those channels private if you want to. And then if you make it private, only the people that have access to that channel will be able to access this course. So I could come in here, set it to private channel, select my private channel, and then click add course. So that is how you're going to build out your learning area. Now let's move on to the members area, and let's talk about all the different options inside of members. All right, so we're in the members tab now. This is where you can view all of the members inside your community. We can see all the active members. We can click on admins and see all of the members that have the admin role. We can see all contributors. I'm not sure exactly what this is, but maybe it's just people that are posting inside the community. We can see all the requests to join the community, so you can review those requests here, and you can accept or reject these requests. And then we can see all the people that have been banned from the community. And then here in the search bar, we can search by different members by name if you have a bunch of members in here, and then you want to find and filter those names down to people to find the right person. Okay, so that's members, and that's pretty straightforward. Let's look at events. All right, so the events tab is where we can actually create events for our community members. So I'm going to click on the event button here. That's going to pull up the window where we can set up our event. I'm going to give it a title, so community training. And then we're going to give it a color, which is the color that's going to show up on the actual calendar. We can give it a start time. So I'm going to make this Friday the 13th at 4 p.m. That's going to automatically set the end time to 30 minutes later, but we can actually change that if we'd like to. I'm going to keep it the same. We can set our time zone here. We can decide whether we want this to be a recurring event or a one-time event. I'm going to actually keep it a one-time event, so I'm going to uncheck that. We can choose our location, so we can decide on a Zoom link, a Google Meet link, or another type of link. We're going to go with Zoom for this meeting. So then I'm going to type in my Zoom link. I'm going to paste in a description, so I can just come up with a description. I'm going to grab my title here, and we'll just make that the description. Also, we can choose who we want to be able to attend this event. So we can choose all members if we want everybody in our community to be able to access this event. The other options are we can choose members at a certain level. So we use this in our paid community. We only allow people to come to our coaching call if they've at least reached this level 2 in our gamification. So we can choose a members at a certain level, and then we can choose the level here. We can also choose members of a private channel. So maybe you've got a higher tier of your membership, and those higher tier people have access to a private channel, and you want this event to only be for that higher tier, then you can actually choose that channel here. And if you choose either the members at a certain level or members of a private channel, then you can check this box, and all the people that are not in that private channel or not to that level of gamification yet can see this event, but they won't be able to see the location link here. Okay, so you can choose to turn that on or off. We can actually remind our attendees by email one day before by checking this box, and then we can hide the attendees from other group members if we check this box. Then we can upload an image to make it pretty in the list view, and then we can click next, and we can decide whether we want this to be a free event or we can make it a paid event, and you can add your pricing and your currency here if you have your merchant services set up. I'm just going to make this a free event, and then we'll click create event. And then that should populate on our calendar When did I do this? I did July or June. So you can see now it's on our calendar. We also have a list view here. So if I click on this, this will show us our list view. If we had a picture here that will look nice and pretty, we can see upcoming events, we can see past events, and then we can toggle back to our calendar view. And then you add the ability to switch between months, and then we can see either a month view or a week view, typically just like a typical calendar, okay? So that is the events tab. Now let's move on to the leaderboard. All right, so the leaderboard is all about gamification. When you first land on the leaderboard, you're going to notice all your levels. Okay, so we showed you how to set your level names inside of your settings area. On the left-hand side here, you can see your profile picture. So everybody that goes to the leaderboard will see their own profile picture here. They'll see what level they're on by looking at this little icon here. They'll see their name. They'll see the level that they're on here. And then they can see how many points they need to level up to the next level. And if they click on this little I here, then you can see the explanation about how the point system works, that every time somebody likes or comments on your post, that's a point. And then the more points they gain, the more levels they unlock. And so these are the different points that they need to acquire to gain, to unlock each additional level, okay? So the cool thing with high level also is that your level or your point system is not just aligned to the actual engagement inside the community. I'll show you some automations later where you can actually give people points inside of your community for almost anything you want to give them points for, okay? So that's pretty cool. So because you can give points for things around like finishing a course lesson or finishing a course, completing an entire course, those kind of things. So that's pretty cool. Down here on the bottom, we have the leaderboard for the last 7 days. So who has accumulated the most points in the last 7 days, the last 30 days, and then the all-time leaders. Over here on the left-hand side, you can see that we can add a reward here, but again, this does not do anything, so this button is absolutely useless. So don't worry about that, but that is essentially gamification, and now let's move on to the last tab, which is the About tab. All right, so the last tab here is the About page. This is essentially your landing page that people are first going to land on when they first come in contact with your community. So this is your first chance to kind of sell them on why they should join your community. So at the top here, you have the ability to upload multiple images and also add a video. So you could think of this as, again, a funnel page, right? The opt-in page for your funnel. So you're going to want to think about what you could add that would compel people to join. You could do multiple different options here. You can use a video sales letter. You can do like a behind the scenes look at what's inside the community. You can share testimonials and case studies. Lots of different options here. Just test different things and see what's going to convert better. Here below that, you can actually add your About page copy. You have 1,000 characters that you can work with here. Also, you'll notice these two little tags here. This will tell you whether your community is a public or private group and whether it's a free or paid group, and then the owner of the community here. All right, and then on the right-hand side, you also see that you got your same as all the other pages, you have your cover image here and your description. So again, you want to have a really compelling description here so that when people land on the community, they are compelled to join. So that is the About page. We actually have an AI tool that will write all of this stuff for you, which is pretty cool. So let me open this up and I'll show you that this will actually write your About page copy, okay? And we also have another tool that will write your video sales letter for you. So you don't have to write any of this stuff from scratch. It's going to do it for you. Again, I'll drop in the description the link where you can actually grab this document, and it has links to all those AI tools in it. So you don't need to write any of that from scratch. Just check out our AI tools and it'll do it for you. So that is the About page. Now let's actually look at some of the automations that you can use inside your community. All right, so now we're back in high level. The first thing that we're going to show you is how to set up your social media planner so that you can post automatically inside of your community. So to do that, I'm going to go to marketing. I'm going to go to social planner here, and then we can connect our community. This is the first page you're going to land on when you're first setting this up. I'm going to click on connect community, and then we'll select the community that we want to add. All right, so now we've added our community. Now I'll click the Get Started button, and it's automatically adding the two channels from our community here. And then now we also have to actually come in here to the settings, and we need to go to communities, and then we need to add yourself as a user so that you can post from your account. Okay, so it's not automatically going to show up here. So what we need to do is start typing in your name, and then your profile should pop up here, and then you'll select that. And now you're ready to start posting inside your community. So now let me go back, and now let me create a new post. I'm going to click create new post. And then we can actually select the social media account that you want to post to. I'm going to click the down arrow here, and then we're going to select the channel that we want to post in, and we can post in multiple channels if we want to here. I'm just going to post to one, and then we'll just say, hey, this is a test post. And then we can add a follow. You can add images here. You can add video. You can add files if you want to. You can do a follow-up comment. So that'll be the first comment and the first actual comment of the post. You give it a title. So this is a test. And with a community, you can actually select this notify all group members, and watch this over here on the right-hand side. When I do this, it will add that everyone tag. So that's going to notify everyone in your community that's a member of your community that there is a new post. And then let's see, it's saying content missing. I think we're all good. So I'm going to actually try to post this. And you can either post now, you can schedule for later, or you can save the actual post itself. Now let's go back to the community and let's see if our post is actually up in the community. All right, let's get a refresh here. Might take a little second to post. And there you have it. There is our first post through the social media planner. So that is how you're going to set up the social media posting inside of your community. And now let's move on to some of the automations. So I'm going to go to automation. All right, so we're inside automations in GoHighLevel. If we click on the create workflow and start from scratch here, we can start to look at some of the triggers and the actions that community owners have access to. So a trigger is the action that someone takes to get them inside of the workflow or the automation. And then the actions are the steps that happen once they're inside the automation or the workflow. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the triggers that you can use as a community owner. Now, there are probably use cases for tons of these different triggers, but there's so many of them, it would take me forever to kind of go through them. So I'm just going to focus on a few ones that I think I want to call your attention to. Okay, so under courses here, these are some ones that you might want to use. So like category completed, lesson completed, or product completed. Earlier we talked about with high-level gamification, the cool thing is that you can actually grant points to people towards their leaderboard points for pretty much anything you want to do. But a good use case for this is when someone completes either part of a course or a completed course, and you can actually give those people points. They can accumulate more points towards rewards. So that's kind of a good use case for the courses triggers here. Now let's actually scroll down to the community triggers and just talk about the ones that are directly related to the community. So the first one here is group access granted. So this is when someone requests to join your community, you give them access to the community, you can trigger a workflow here. So a good use case is maybe you want to send them a series of text messages and emails to drive them back to the community, to engage in the community, to consume your courses. Maybe you want to try to book calls with those people. Maybe you want to send them to a webinar so you convert them that way. So that's a good use case of the group access granted trigger. Group access revoked, maybe you want to revoke access from other things like product, like courses or things of that nature. That's a good use case for group access revoked. Same thing with private channels. You can trigger a workflow when you grant access to a private channel. You can also trigger a workflow when you revoke that access. And then the other cool one here is community group leaderboard level changed. So when somebody accumulates enough points inside of your community, you can actually trigger a workflow. And a good use case for this is maybe you want to send them a text message, maybe you want to send them a push notification to congratulate them on unlocking a new level and letting them know what reward they just won, so that you're incentivizing them to keep doing that action. You give them that dopamine hit, and they're much more likely to continue that because now they get excited about it. Okay, so those are the triggers. Now let's actually take a look at the actions. So I'm going to click on the plus button here, and we'll just scroll all the way down to the community actions and take a look at some of those. All right, so the community's actions, let's take a look at this first one here is smart push notification. We just talked about, sending somebody a congratulations when they unlock a new level. You can send a push notification where you can actually send it to the mobile app. They'll see the push notification in the mobile app, so that's a good use case for that. Also, maybe you're adding some new courses or something like that. Maybe you want to send them a push notification for that. Group access, grant group access, so you can, let's just say they paid you outside of the community, for some other product and you wanted to include access to the community for that, you can actually grant them group access. You can revoke group access. You can grant private channel access. You can revoke private channel access. And the other cool one here is grant community group leaderboard points. So this is where we talked about when somebody completes a course, we can actually give them some points. So let's actually show you a quick automation to show you how to do that. I think that's a good use of our time here. So I'm going to scroll up to courses, okay? And then we're going to say when someone completes a product, we want to give that person points. So I'm going to add a filter here. I'm going to select the product that I want to give the person points for completing. So product is any of, and then we're going to select our masterclass free course here. So when somebody completes the masterclass course inside of our community, which is what we want them to do so they can consume our content, so that they consume our content, we build that know, like, and trust, then we want to give that person a bunch of points and give them a reward. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down to the community actions here. I'm going to click on grant community group leaderboard points. I'm going to select the group that we want to give points in, and let's just say we want to give that person a bunch of points. We want to give them 20 points for finishing our masterclass course. That's going to be a great incentive for them to complete that course. And then now we have a workflow that is going to reward somebody once they complete the course with 20 points towards unlocking new levels, unlocking new rewards. That's just a good use case of this particular trigger and action. So let's go back to our workflows here. So this is our community snapshot, and you can see we've got a ton of different workflows in here to help people grow and monetize their communities. We've got our webinar workflows that invites people to a webinar and then make sure they show up, and then also tries to convert them after the webinar is over. We've got our free community nurture sequences where we drive people back to the community to engage, drive them back to consume our content, and also try to book calls with text and email. We have our paid community workflows where we try to onboard people and give them a good experience so they're much more likely to stick around. We have a long-term nurture sequence where we're sending out 57 emails that continuously nurtures our audience. We've got sales and personal call calendars, so our whole booking system is in there. So we've got a lot of different automations that we offer inside of our community workflow, our community snapshot for our elite members. So that is automations, and that is some of the things that you can do as a community owner. So that's our Go High Level tutorial. If you found it valuable, be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to check the description for that GHL setup guide. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.